The honey in your cupboard has almost nothing in common with the honey medieval doctors used to save lives.
Here's the thing. For most of human history, honey wasn't just a sweetener. It was treasure. Monasteries stocked it as medicine. Even Viking ships carried it across the North Atlantic because it didn't rot. But the honey you buy today, your body reacts to it like refined sugar, spikes in blood glucose that leaves you hungry again. Now that you know how honey changed, let's look at what those changes do to your body. Medieval honey had a slow, steady glycemic impact, not because it contained less sugar, but because the enzymes, pollen, proteins, and plant compounds naturally slowed absorption. Your blood sugar rose gradually, your energy stayed stable, and the antibacterial components, especially small amounts of hydrogen peroxide produced by enzymes, worked gently in your mouth and throat. When you eat most commercial honey today, none of that happens. The heat used in processing destroys the enzymes that once moderated absorption and produced antibacterial effects. The filtration removes pollen, which carried proteins and micronutrients. What enters your bloodstream now behaves like sweetened syrup: rapid spike, rapid crash, hunger soon after. This isn't speculation. It's consistent with how processed sugars behave and with what we know about enzyme-sensitive foods. I can't give exact numerical glycemic index values without more consistent research, but the trend is clear. Processing turns honey from a complex food into simple sugar. And then there's contamination. Large surveys in Europe and North America have found pesticide residues, especially glyphosate, a notable portion of commercial honey samples. The exact percentages vary by region, but the pattern is real enough to be taken seriously. Pesticides don't just harm bees. They affect your gut microbiome and immune system over time. Medieval honey didn't face this problem because their landscapes weren't chemically treated. Their bees foraged wild meadows, forests, and orchards untouched by herbicides or systemic pesticides. Now consider how medieval honey connected people to season and place. Linden honey in early summer, forest honey in midsummer, heather honey in late season. Each type tasted unique, carried different aromas, and was used for different remedies. People knew which honey soothed a sore throat and which supported digestion. This wasn't romantic folklore. It was practical observation. Today, almost all store-bought honey is blended to achieve one standard taste. Blossom honey could come from anywhere. By blending, filtering, and heating, the distinct chemical signatures that once gave honey character are erased. A 2009 analysis by researchers in Dresden compared the complexity described in historical texts with modern samples and found that old honey likely contained a far greater variety of aromatic compounds. Fewer compounds means fewer potential biological effects. Let's shift to sustainability. Medieval beekeeping was gentle. A beekeeper had a handful of hives spread out across woodlands and fields. Bees experienced low stress, little competition, and diverse forage. Honey yields were small but stable. Modern beekeeping is intensive. Thousands of hives placed close together. Bees transported long distances, nectar from just a few plant species. This creates nutritional stress, spreads disease more easily, and increases reliance on medication. Scientists studying colony collapse point to multiple factors: mites, viruses, pesticides, stress, but nutrition and genetics are part of the picture. Medieval bees didn't face these pressures. So what can you do if you want real honey that behaves like food, not candy? Start with local beekeepers. Look for raw, unheated honey. Ask if the bees are allowed to keep enough of their own honey for winter. Ask if the honey crystallizes naturally. Crystallization isn't a flaw. It's a sign that the honey hasn't been overheated. Hold the jar to the light. If you see tiny flecks pollen, a bit of wax, that's good. It means the honey hasn't been ultrafiltered. Taste it. Real honey has layers. Floral notes, herbal notes, resin, bitterness, depending on the plant sources. If it tastes only sugary and flat, it's been processed or blended until the complexity vanished. Or, if you want to go further, keep your own bees. A simple hive, minimal tools, and patience are enough. Let the bees build naturally, harvest once a year, and leave them what they need. You'll get modest quantities, but the honey you collect will be closer to what medieval people used as medicine and sustenance. Because medieval honey wasn't primitive, it was powerful. It healed wounds that nothing else could. It preserved food. It sustained travelers and communities. It was a cornerstone of life. We didn't lose that honey because it stopped working. We lost it because the industry reshaped honey into something uniform, cheap, and easy to sell. If this helped you understand what real honey should be, hit like and subscribe. Here, we revive food knowledge the modern world quietly buried. Here's where everything finally comes together. By now, you understand that medieval honey wasn't magical because people believed in myths. It worked because it was biologically alive. The bees were healthy. The plants were diverse. The honey was untouched by heat and heavy filtration. And most importantly, the human body evolved alongside that food for thousands of years. So the real question isn't why did medieval honey heal? The real question is, why does modern honey sometimes make people feel worse? The answer lies in how your body processes sugar when the biological context is removed. Medieval honey didn't hit the bloodstream naked. It arrived with enzymes, pollen, organic acids, trace minerals, and antimicrobial compounds. These slowed absorption. They moderated the insulin response. They supported gut bacteria instead of overwhelming it. Modern processed honey arrives stripped down to glucose and fructose. No enzymes to regulate digestion. No pollen to support immune signaling. No acids to slow uptake. The result is a blood sugar spike that looks almost identical to refined sugar. This doesn't mean honey itself became bad. It means we removed everything that told the body how to handle it. Let's talk about glycemic response carefully. I cannot confirm that medieval honey had a universally low glycemic index that depends heavily on the floral source. But what is supported by modern nutritional research is this. Foods consumed with intact enzymes, acids, and fibrous compounds produce a slower and more stable glucose response than isolated sugars. Raw, unheated honey still contains those compounds. Heated, ultra-filtered honey does not. That difference alone explains why some people feel energized after raw honey and sluggish after commercial honey. It's not psychology, it's digestion. Then there's the gut. Your digestive system isn't just a tube, it's an ecosystem. And medieval honey interacted with that ecosystem in a very specific way. Raw honey contains trace amounts of hydrogen peroxide produced slowly by the enzyme glucose oxidase. This doesn't sterilize the gut. It selectively suppresses harmful bacteria while leaving beneficial species intact. That balance matters. Once that enzyme is destroyed by heat, honey loses this regulatory effect. What remains is fuel for whichever microbes are strongest. In modern guts already damaged by antibiotics, ultra-processed foods, and stress, that fuel often feeds the wrong organisms. This is why some people experience bloating or discomfort after eating modern honey but not after raw honey. The food didn't change. The microbial context did. Medieval people unknowingly protected that balance. They didn't eat honey constantly. They used it deliberately for wounds, for preservation, for illness, for energy during hard labor. It wasn't drizzled casually over everything. Now let's address something uncomfortable. Modern honey isn't just processed. In many cases, it's diluted. I cannot claim exact global percentages without risking exaggeration. But food testing agencies in multiple countries have repeatedly documented the adulteration of commercial honey with sugar syrups. This is not conspiracy, it's economics. Honey is expensive to produce honestly. Sugar syrup is cheap. Blending increases profit. And once pollen is removed through ultrafiltration, tracing the origin becomes extremely difficult. Medieval honey couldn't be diluted secretly. It crystallized naturally. It varied by season. It tasted different every single year. Those variations were proof of authenticity, not defects. Modern consumers were trained to expect identical color, identical taste, and permanent liquidity. Those expectations forced producers to destroy the very signs of real honey. Your body still expects the old version. That mismatch creates the problem. Now, here's the part that matters most. You don't need to live like a medieval peasant to fix this. You just need to know what to look for. Real honey behaves differently. It crystallizes, not always immediately, but eventually. It contains visible particles, fine pollen, tiny wax flecks. It smells complex, floral, herbal, sometimes even slightly bitter. It tastes layered, sweet, yes, but also acidic, aromatic, alive. Honey that stays perfectly clear for years is almost certainly heated. That doesn't make it poison, but it does mean it's nutritionally diminished. Raw honey may still raise blood sugar. It is still sugar, but it does so in a way your body recognizes. And here's an important truth most people never hear. Medieval people didn't eat honey for sweetness. They ate it for function. That mindset matters. When honey is used as medicine, preservation, or strategic energy, the body responds differently than when it's used as a constant sugar source. Now let's talk storage, because this is another forgotten piece. Medieval honey wasn't stored in plastic. It wasn't stored in metal. It wasn't stored under bright warehouse lights. It was kept in clay, wood, or sealed containers that allowed minimal air exchange. This allowed for slow maturation. Enzymes continued working. Flavors deepened. Modern honey sits in plastic for months. Plasticizers can migrate. Heat accelerates breakdown. Nothing improves. Everything degrades. Again, not because people were smarter then, because the systems were slower. And slower systems preserved complexity. Now, ask yourself something honestly. When was the last time the modern food industry chose slowness over efficiency? That's the real reason medieval honey disappeared. Not because science disproved it, because it couldn't be scaled without destroying it. This pattern repeats everywhere. Bread, leather, clothing, buildings. The moment speed becomes the priority, biological intelligence is sacrificed. Medieval people didn't preserve honey because they were nostalgic. They preserved it because winter killed people who didn't prepare. Their systems were shaped by consequence. Ours are shaped by convenience. So here's the conclusion, and it's simple. Honey didn't stop being healthy. We stopped respecting what made it healthy. If you choose honey today, choose deliberately, raw, local, when possible, unheated, crystallized, or crystallizing, and use it the way medieval people did, not as decoration, but as a functional food. If you do that, your body will recognize it again. This series wasn't about romanticizing the past. It was about understanding why certain systems worked for thousands of years without causing harm. The medieval beekeeper didn't know about enzymes or microbiomes, but he observed outcomes, and he adjusted accordingly. That's intelligence, and it's still available to you. If this series changed how you think about honey, food, or history, subscribe. We're not chasing nostalgia. We're recovering knowledge that modern systems quietly erased. Next, we'll break down how to identify real, functional foods in a world built to sell imitations. Because the secret was never lost. It was just filtered out.